AUKUS may be Australia's most well-known geopolitical pact right now, and the recent security agreement with Papua New Guinea brought our security pacts to the forefront of Australians' minds for a while, but we also have a number of other alliances with countries around the world. The Quad, the Five Eyes Alliance, and ANZUS for starters. Each of these alliances are between different countries, have different goals and structures, and offer different benefits to the member states. So today I want to have a brief look at each of these major partnerships and find out how they define Australia's defence posture, influence the Indo-Pacific, and global strategic footprint. I'm Mel Pikos, and today we're talking alliances. AUKUS. This alliance was announced in 2021 and is a security pact between Australia, the United Kingdom, and the United States. It's not a formal defence guarantee, but more focused on sharing capabilities and technology. At its core, it's about Australia acquiring nuclear-powered submarines, giving the Royal Australian Navy long-range, stealthy, and powerful capabilities. These are not nuclear-armed submarines, just nuclear-powered. But AUKUS isn't just about subs. It also covers advanced technologies like hypersonic missiles, cyber capabilities, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, and undersea warfare tech. The USA gets a stronger ally in the Indo-Pacific in Australia, helping it balance against China. The UK gets to deepen its role in the region while supporting its own submarine industry. And Australia gets access to top-tier military technology that wouldn't have been possible to develop alone, boosting its deterrence and alliance credibility. It also should be noted that AUKUS isn't a defence pact. So if the UK or the US is directly attacked by another country, Australia isn't required to come to their defence under this agreement. We can make our own decision as to enter a conflict if it arises. Personally, I'd like to see more out of the AUKUS agreement. I think there should be a less restrictive immigration policy between AUKUS countries so that highly skilled and in-demand workers can move between the three states more freely. If Australia, the US, and the UK are truly committed to building an integrated security and technology ecosystem, then mobility should be a big part of that. Imagine a system where Australian engineers could easily take up contracts in California or Portsmouth, and American and British AI specialists could seamlessly work in Adelaide's submarine program. It would help fill major skill shortages, speed up defence innovation, and deepen the cultural and professional links that make alliances like AUKUS more than just a strategic partnership. Pukpuk Treaty, Papua New Guinea. I won't go into too much detail on the new security pact with Papua New Guinea because I did a whole video on it just before it was signed a few weeks ago. But here's a quick overview. The document confirms mutual defence provisions first revealed by the ABC last month, saying each party recognises that an armed attack on either of the parties within the Pacific would be dangerous to each other's peace and security and the security of the Pacific, and promising they would act together to meet the common danger in accordance with its constitutional processes. It will also allow PNG citizens to serve in the Australian Defence Force and offer a path to citizenship to those who do serve. There will be mutual training activities and interoperability between the two nations' militaries. It's Australia's first new alliance in more than 70 years and is widely seen as attempting to curtail China's growing presence in the Pacific. The Quad. The Quadrilateral Security Dialogue, better known as the Quad, brings together Australia, the United States, Japan, and India. It was originally floated after the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami as a way to coordinate disaster relief, and it's since evolved into a strategic forum focused on balancing China's influence in the Indo-Pacific. Again, unlike NATO, the Quad isn't a military alliance. There's no mutual defence obligation if one member comes under attack. Instead, it's about strategic cooperation and economic benefits. Joint military exercises like the Malabar naval drills, strengthening tech supply chains, building economic resilience, and promoting maritime security in the Indo-Pacific. The Quad's critical minerals initiative is helping diversify supply chains away from China, positioning resource-rich Australia as a key supplier of lithium, graphite, rare earths, and other materials vital for tech and clean energy industries. Through the Quad Clean Energy Supply Chain Diversification Program, Australia is receiving funding for projects in solar, hydrogen, and battery technology, while its new cable connectivity and resilience centre bolsters secure undersea data links that underpin regional trade and digital infrastructure. Then there's the trade flow. The Quad countries account for 44% of two-way merchandise trade in the Indo-Pacific and 30% of global foreign direct investment. Better coordination amongst them can help Australian exporters, especially from resource-rich states, tap into broader markets, investment channels, and infrastructure funding. Finally, programs like the Quad Infrastructure Fellowship and Health Security Collaborations build capacity, networks, and goodwill. These types of projects aren't flashy, but are valuable economic assets. Each country in the Quad gets something out of it. The United States reinforces its role as the anchor of Indo-Pacific security while building collective pressure against China. Japan strengthens partnerships that support its defense posture and protect vital sea lanes in the region. For India, it provides closer ties with major powers and access to technology and investment, while still allowing New Delhi to maintain its strategic independence. And for Australia, it means diversifying security and economic ties beyond just the United States, while boosting its role as a critical mineral and energy supplier to the region. Critics say the Quad is more talk than action, but supporters see it as a flexible way to build influence, reduce dependence on China, and align like-minded democracies without the binding commitments of a treaty alliance. ANZUS. The ANZUS Treaty, signed in 1951 between Australia, New Zealand, and the United States, is the closest thing Australia has to a NATO-style security guarantee. It was born out of the Cold War anxieties after World War II and was aimed at keeping the Pacific secure from communist expansion. Under the treaty, members agree to consult and act if one is attacked in the Pacific, though it doesn't legally force them into automatic war. This alliance was tested most notably in the aftermath of the September 11 attacks in 2001. Australia became the first country to formally invoke the ANZUS Treaty, deploying troops, special forces, and support personnel to Afghanistan alongside the Americans. Tensions emerged in the 1980s when New Zealand adopted an anti-nuclear stance, banning nuclear-armed and nuclear-powered ships from its ports. This clashed directly with US strategic policy, which operated under a neither confirm nor deny approach about whether its vessels carried nuclear weapons. The result was a sharp cooling of military cooperation between Wellington and Washington, and while the treaty obligations were never formally dissolved, cooperation shifted towards bilateral ties between the US and Australia. In recent years, relations have thawed, joint exercises have resumed, and the three nations are finding new ways to collaborate, particularly in peacekeeping, humanitarian aid, and cybersecurity, even if New Zealand's nuclear stance remains unchanged. For Australia, ANZUS remains the cornerstone of its defence policy, giving it the confidence of US military backing in the Pacific. The Five Eyes. The Five Eyes Alliance is one of the most secretive and powerful intelligence networks in the world. Formed during World War II out of US-UK intelligence cooperation, it expanded to include Australia, Canada, and New Zealand, and has been quietly shaping global security ever since. Unlike ANZUS, this isn't about armies or navies. It's about sharing signals intelligence, from intercepted communications to satellite data, as well as joint efforts in cybersecurity and counterterrorism. For Australia, Five Eyes means access to some of the most sensitive information collected by the the US and the UK. The alliance doesn't require members to fight for each other, but it does make them smarter, faster, and better prepared when making national security decisions. Critics argue it locks Australia even deeper into the orbit of US foreign policy, but few deny the strategic advantages it brings. 5 Power Defence Arrangements. The 5 Power Defence Arrangements was signed in 1971 and link Australia, the UK, Malaysia, Singapore and New Zealand in a consultative defence pact. It doesn't legally bind members to intervene militarily, but if Malaysia or Singapore were attacked, the others are obligated to consult immediately on how to respond. The FPDA was born as Britain wound down its military presence east of the Suez, and for Malaysia and Singapore, two nations who were relatively young at the time, this withdrawal created deep uncertainty about their ability to deter external threats or defend themselves against regional tensions. The agreement provided a security safety net, ensuring that Australia, New Zealand and the UK would remain engaged in Southeast Asia's defence. Today it remains an active framework with regular joint exercises, air defence drills and naval patrols, helping Australia maintain a steady presence in Southeast Asia. For Australia, the FPDA is less about preparing for war and more about regional stability and influence, keeping old ties alive while working with neighbours. Critics call it outdated, but its quiet endurance shows just how useful even lightweight alliances can be. ASEAN partnerships. Australia isn't a member of ASEAN, the Association for Southeast Asian Nations, but it's one of the group's closest partners. Since the 1970s, Australia has been steadily deepening ties with ASEAN, and in recent years it was elevated to a comprehensive strategic partnership. Much of this cooperation happens through the ASEAN Defence Ministers meeting. It also brings in extra players like the US, China, Japan, India, and Russia. The focus here isn't great power rivalry, but practical issues like counter-terrorism, disaster relief, humanitarian assistance and maritime security. There's no defence guarantee. Australia isn't obliged to fight for ASEAN countries, but it does get valuable political and military access across Southeast Asia, a region that's fast becoming the front line of strategic competition. Supporters say these ties help build trust and influence in a diverse, often divided region, while critics argue it's too soft compared to the hard edge of other alliances. Other defence pacts. Beyond its big multilateral commitments, Australia has been building a network of bilateral defence pacts to strengthen its regional posture. With Japan, the 2022 Defence Cooperation Agreement enables joint training, intelligence sharing, and deeper interoperability, making Tokyo one of Canberra's closest security partners after the US. With India, cooperation has focused on mutual logistics support and maritime security, particularly in the Indian Ocean, where both nations see China's naval presence growing. Just recently, the Indian Minister for Defence visited Australia, and together with Australian Minister for Defence Richard Marles, they announced agreements to deepen military cooperation across all domains, expand joint exercises, strengthen defence industry ties, and enhance collaboration with Quad and regional partners to support a free and open Indo-Pacific. But India does continue to buy cheap Russian oil, so that's definitely a consideration that we as Australians are always cautious of whenever we're treating with India, that they are effectively playing all sides of the fence. And despite the fallout from the cancelled submarine deal, France remains an important partner with regular naval deployments and joint exercises in the Indian Ocean. France does still control a lot of territory also in our region. What do you think? While Australia's military capabilities are impressive, its alliances and partnerships truly define its strategic reach. These networks provide technology, intelligence, influence, economic growth, and stability, and coordinated defence, even when no formal obligation exists. Which of these alliances do you think gives Australia the biggest strategic edge? Should we be deepening these ties or stepping away from some of them? Should we be looking at forming new partnerships? Who else should come into AUKUS? Drop your thoughts in the comments section down below and make sure to like and subscribe for more deep dives into defence and geopolitics. That's it for today. I'm Mel Pikos and we've been talking tactics.